though, some FANG names, including Netflix, which has been a big stay-at-home trade as we've all been sitting at home watching TV. You probably first watched The Tiger King, and maybe now you have moved on to The Last Dance. That, of course, is the Michael Jordan documentary about the Bulls' last championship season. And we have executive producer of The Last Dance, Curtis Polk, joining us right now. He's also Michael Jordan's longtime business partner. You're on the executive team of the Hornets. So for all of us that are watching this right now, you keep thinking, I can't believe they shot this and they had this video for so long. Michael Jordan, of course, a very private person. I think we all know that on some level. Are you surprised that this actually got made and is out right now?
Thank you for having me today. No, I mean, I would have, if you would have asked me 10 or 15 years ago, I would have been surprised. But as we've seen over the past decade, the long form documentary has gained a lot of popularity through things like OJ Made in America, Making of a Murderer, and some others that have been very high profile. And as we started to see those roll out around 2015, it made us realize that it was probably time to unlock the vault and let this footage get out and make a story around it.
Following up on that point, I'm curious what the conversations were over the years. I mean, as I understand it, you got plenty of pitches from people who knew about the existence of this footage. You know, was it about that format you talked about? Was it about Michael Jordan being ready to share all of this? I mean, what was the holdup?
Various times, you know, starting probably around 2003, I think is probably the first time we seriously looked at collaborating with a production company. You know, documentaries back then, if you had more than an 80 or 90-minute documentary, it would probably put people to sleep. And when we looked at the depth of footage that we had and knew that we wanted to supplement that with current day interviews to reflect back on the 97-98 season, there was no way you could fully tell the story in 80 or 90 minutes. So every time we would talk with people, they'd give us an outline. A couple people actually went to the trouble of doing some video treatment. It couldn't tell the whole story.
Hey, Curtis, you're a busy guy, so I don't want to waste your time with Miles Udlin and you trying to convince him that Michael's the greatest basketball player who ever lived versus LeBron. He's one of these young people who thinks LeBron. I'm like, I've seen them both. Trust me. Okay, so we're not even going to go there because I'm with you. I would imagine MJ's the greatest ever. So that's an aside. What does a 57-year-old Michael Jeffrey Jordan do on a day-to-day basis, though, right now? What's his life like?
Well, you know, he's got a lot of things in his personal life that he deals with young children, hobbies and pastimes. But we're very busy from a business standpoint. We are very involved in the Jordan brand, which is a division of Nike that makes the shoes and athletic apparel, and that's been going on for over 30 years now, or just about 30 years. And we have the Charlotte Hornets, which right now, obviously, NBA basketball is on a hiatus, but that keeps us pretty busy on a daily basis. And then we have a lot of other businesses that aren't as high profile as the Jordan brand and the basketball team that keep us busy.
Hey, Curtis, Rick Newman here. Michael Jordan obviously is a franchise. We're still fascinated with his career 21 years after he retired. After this documentary, what's the next chapter in the Michael Jordan franchise?
Well, again, I think that, you know, the Jordan brand has grown and grown and grown. It would have been hard to believe. I started working for Michael and his family in 1989, and it would have been hard to believe in 1989 or even 1990 or 1991 when the Bulls were rising to their first championship that we'd ever see the brand be as globally, the breadth of it globally as we see it today. So, you know, we just keep trying to grow that brand. And then, you know, we're hoping that one of these years we'll be able to put a championship team on the court in Charlotte.
And, you know, Curtis, talking about your involvement with the Hornets and where the league stands right now, obviously a very odd time for the NBA and how this all proceeds. Thinking about the basketball world right now, what's your view on what the pathway is to getting restarted? There's been news within the last hour that May 8th, some team facilities may open, but do you have any sense of where any kind of a timeline might stand with getting players back on the court?
I really don't. I mean, obviously, the health and safety of our players and our coaches and the personnel that have to work with the players every day is first and foremost. And obviously, our heart goes out to everyone in the world who's lost loved ones due to this terrible virus. So, we're just waiting to see, what the government officials and health officials tell us is the best practice, and we'll react to that once we start to see the states close, move away from these shelters in place, and we see people start to go back to work, and then we'll figure out when's the appropriate time to get back to playing.
Do you think that sports ever gets back to normal, or are we in for what people are calling the new abnormal?
It's hard to say. I mean, this is obviously, hit us so quickly. Who would have thought 3 or 4 months ago that we'd be sitting here, doing Zoom calls all day, and toilet paper and Purell and paper towels and Clorox and Lysol products would be more valuable than oil. It's hard to believe that. If I would have told you that 3 months ago, you would have told me I was crazy. So right now we're in a period of time that hopefully it's going to be with us. It looks like for some extended period, but hopefully we will get back to normal one day. I mean, you look back. I used to be a history major. You look back in our history at times of pandemics or war, or where people had to come together and deal with economic strife. And as Americans and as humanity, we've always been able to rise above it again. So I hope that one day we get back to what used to be normal 5 and 6 months ago.
Curtis, before we let you go, let's get back to the good stuff, because I do think this documentary is bringing a lot of joy to people. It's fun to watch right now. That's why it's really resonating with them. So can you let us know, is there anything that didn't make it into the documentary? No. Anything that you cut that you
it could have been 20
tell us about? Like, was there some stuff that was just like too hot to handle in the documentary, or is this really everything?
I think all the good stuff is really in there. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for people. You're going to see some topics that are very sensitive in some of the upcoming episodes. But we tried to deal with them in a very honest and straightforward manner. We really didn't. This is not a puff piece in any way, shape, or form. And I think that what you're seeing is very raw, and it's not only going back and seeing it as it occurred, 20 or in some of these episodes. Obviously, we're delving back into the earlier 90s. But even in the interviews that were done over the past 3 years, I think you're seeing some very straightforward and forthright discussion of the issues. I mean, I think the piece last night, which I'm getting a lot of comments about, with the Detroit Pistons walking off in 1991 without shaking hands, and seeing how Isaiah Thomas dealt with it in the current day interview, and then Michael responding to it by the director showing him the iPad. That was pretty amazing. I mean, it's the texts and emails I'm getting about that segment alone is really something. And then obviously everybody really enjoyed Dennis Rodman's vacation, and the story as told by Carmen Electra and Michael going over to Dennis's apartment. I think a lot of people misunderstood that. That's one of the things I've seen today. People thought Michael Jordan got on a plane and flew to Las Vegas and knocked on the hotel room door. No, he just went across town in Chicago because Dennis didn't show up for practice, and he went over there with one of the team personnel, and they got Dennis out of bed and over to practice.
And quick last question also, Curtis, how long have you been working with Michael?
Since 1989.
Wow. Long time.
Well, Curtis, thank you so much for talking to us and also for this documentary. It's really fun to watch. It's a great education for the youngsters out there.
Yeah.
What's going on with Michael Jordan. Curtis Polk is the executive producer of The Last Dance. And I hope we can get you back another time once sports gets back up and running.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I'd like to, what I would like to talk about for just 10 seconds is enjoying how basketball used to be played versus it is today. It's very different. And some people don't remember how physical it was, how playing in the paint was so significant versus the three-point shot. So I personally really enjoyed seeing a lot of the highlights and making this documentary of how basketball was played in the 80s and 90s. And I think for the young people who didn't, see that, it's going to be a real eye opener.
Yeah, you used to be on a team. People would pass the ball, not just an isolation play.
Take notes, Mom.
Curtis Polk, thank you so much again. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.